The one thing I've seen about Chelsea this window, which I like, is we're being on the front foot and we're spending money before we make money. And we're doing a bit, it's kind of evened out now, but like the Morgan Rogers one, we just went out and spent 117 million. We'll get that money back. We know we are. We're putting our eggs in one basket in that sense. But we've got so many assets that we can sell in terms of Delap and all these other players to generate some serious revenue. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you think Chelsea do secure Adam Wharton this window, or do you think that Chelsea go for Alex Scott, or maybe they just stick with Enzo Fernandez? Mark Bruce of Court Offside has reported an exclusive. Chelsea are preparing a new and improved bid worth £70 million for Alex Scott. Arsenal and Liverpool are among the clubs lurking in the background. Full story to follow. Now, I went through this full story, and I'm going to be honest, there was nothing of worth pulling out from it other than what we already knew. The only difference was Chelsea are now basically saying, we're going to go back in with £70 million. It's more than likely going to be rejected by Bournemouth because they are sitting and waiting for £80 million. Chelsea do not want to overspend in this market in terms of we're not just going to overpay for a player for the sake of it. And I respect that. We're digging our heels in. Like I said previously with when it comes to Adam Wharton, they're very different players. And I think they both fit into an Alonso squad, and it changes the dynamic slightly in terms of what they can do on the pitch. I like Alex Scott. I think he's a fantastic player. This guy wants the Chelsea move. That's what we know. Chelsea don't want to spend £80 million. So maybe this is a bit of an Arsenal and Bruno G and Newcastle type situation where the player wants the move. Newcastle are waiting for a certain amount, and Arsenal are like, we ain't going to do that. We're going to pay X amount. That's as much as we're willing to go. And the player internally goes, I want the move. And it reduces that fee a little. If Chelsea can sign Alex Scott for £70 million, yes, it's a ridiculous amount of money. It's a lot of money. Is he worth £70 million? I don't think so. I don't think Rodgers is worth 117. In this inflated market, the game's the game. That's the price that we would eventually pay. If we secure him for that, I think Chelsea see that as we save some money. We've got a really good player for now and for the future. But I still think that Adam Wharton is their main target in terms of Alonso's target to fit that system perfectly. We have a lot of midfielders. We still need to bring in. We've got Jordan Henderson coming in. We need 2 midfielders. And I think those midfielders are Alex Scott and Adam Wharton. If Chelsea pull this off, it is a 10 out of 10 window. And at the moment, it's a strong 8. We still need that left back sorted and we need that midfield sorted. Those are the 2 positions we're going to rate this on at the end of the window. We've got Henderson in. I like that. Lavia, he's fit for now, but he might not be. I'm going to say he's not, just in case, because looking historically, that guy can't stay fit. Asugo, I hope that he stays fit, because he is Caicedo's replacement. That's your like for like there. Enzo, I still think he gets sold, so I think that he's off, which one you can't really discount the squad place now because he's still there, but I think that's what they're trying to plan on do, and I think that we sell him for a reduced fee, and it frees up another spot. Chelsea do need 2 more midfielders because you can look at it and say we're stacked. Alex Scott will be the Andre Santos replacement. That's an improvement. Henderson is just there for dressing room support, an absolute must need if we've got no other option to go in midfield. Maybe Alonso's got a slightly different role for him, but he will get limited games. He's not going to play 38 games a season. Asugo, if he stays fit, is the rotation for Caicedo. Caicedo plays every game. So we do need a couple midfielders. And if we can do this, mate, we would be cooking. So, like I said, within the article itself, it's Mark Bruce. We don't know how reliable it is, but in the article, he's basically saying a friend of a friend was whispering in his ear and, went through the grapevine and basically said that Chelsea are going to pay £70 million and Bournemouth are probably going to turn it down. I think at that point, if it does go ahead that way, that's when serious conversation is going to be had, because if Alex Scott pushes for this move, maybe we get 70 plus 5 million in add-ons or whatever, and we get closer to that 80. Who really knows? But I think that Alex Scott and Adam Wharton will more than likely be wearing a Chelsea shirt, one or the other. If we get both, honestly, I'll be in dreamland because that's insane of a window. But one of them for sure will be wearing a Chelsea shirt by the end of the window. That is my thoughts and opinions. So let me know yours down below regarding Alex Scott. Should Chelsea go spend £80 million? Should we just overspend in this market because that's what Bournemouth want us to pay, and they don't want to sell Alex Scott? Obviously, Krupi has just got an injury. That's going to obviously change his stance in being sold too. I'll be very curious to know your thoughts. Who would you rather, Adam Scott or Alex Wharton? Right, Adam Wharton or Alex Scott? Some of you guys had debates in the comments as well, and I read all the comments and I go through it, and I'm like, You guys have got good points. I don't know who I would prefer out of the two. I would lean towards Adam Wharton. He's my number one target in terms of priorities, and I think he'd be perfect partnering Caicedo. But I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Simon Phillips has reported breaking news. Lewis Hall is Chelsea's dream target to replace Marc Cucurella. Despite leaving Chelsea on poor terms, Hall could be convinced to return with the help of Xabi Alonso and the promise of a starting role under him. It's worth noting that Chelsea's pursuit of Pep Chavaria isn't over yet. He goes on to say that Chelsea are keeping a close eye on Lewis Hall's situation at Newcastle. The Blues remain keen on bringing back the former academy graduate back after Man United made little progress. And he goes on to say that Chelsea believe Hall could be convinced under Alonso. If Chelsea could do this, which I'm going to be honest, I don't think we can. I think Lewis Hall has made his mind up. He doesn't want to come back to Chelsea. If he's convinced by Alonso, that guy deserves a statue. And I'm not saying purely because of Lewis Hall, but in one window to convince all these players to come to Chelsea, who finished 10th with no European football, being a laughing stock of Premier League football after last season, with all the manager changes, the ownerships and the protests and everything, in one window to be like, cool, we've gone and assembled a team that's probably going to go win the league. And I'm saying I've got so much confidence. If we get a Lewis Hall, we get an Adam Wharton or a Scott, Alonso has his team. And there's no excuses then. We just go full steam ahead and see how far we can get. And I think Chelsea, top four is a minimum, I believe, with minimum football to play. Yeah, third and above, domestic trophies, bring me silverware. Lewis Hall would be the perfect replacement for Marc Cucurella in an Alonso system, because he could play left back or left wing back. And like I said earlier in the video, Alonso is 2 signings away. He had a map of the starting 11, the 2 signings he needs, that centre midfielder and that left back who can play wing back as well. Lewis Hall would be perfect because he could play both of those roles to a very high standard, had an exceptional season last season for a left back. The standout for me was that Barcelona game in the Champions League. Tore him apart. Absolutely tore him apart. And I'm not saying that he deserves to move based off of one game. Chelsea should not have sold Lewis Hall. We said this when we sold him. 32 million is great for pure profit, and we did need to balance the books. I understand the context around it, but a lot of fans were saying, myself included, this is going to come back to bite us because he's a great player. He played a handful of games for Chelsea, and we all said, keep him. He needs to play more. Obviously, he had Cucurella in front of him and things like that, so it didn't go that way. But I think if we can get hold of him, mate, that would be an amazing signing. Now, Chelsea's still going after Pep Chavaria. If we can get him, cool. We kind of have to see how that happens with Alonso and to kind of trust him. Same with like Marco Palestra. That is a Xabi Alonso signing. Pep Chavaria would have to do the same. He's older, he's experienced, he could play left back, left wing back. I just don't like that Raul Vallecano are trying to take us to the cleaners and want £42 million. I don't know how much Lewis Hall will be worth. I can imagine that Newcastle, because I feel for them a little bit, losing Isak last season, Tonali, Bruno probably. If they lose Lewis Hall as well, they've lost everyone. All their spine, all their best players. I feel for them a little bit. I don't know how much they'd want for Lewis Hall. 50 million, 60 million, because they can charge what they want. It's just about if Lewis Hall wants to come back to Chelsea. And if Alonso could convince him, maybe there's a shred of hope there. Maybe. And I have to say that Simon Phillips has been bang on most of this summer. So I definitely know that, I could definitely say that there's elements of truth to this, and it's a name that keeps getting popped up in his reports and things. And even he's saying, like, it just keeps coming up. That the chances are very low, but Chelsea really do want to bring him back. I think this would be perfect.
And it also regards a story which has been fought in the courts and appealed. Chelsea's Mykhailo Mudri is clear to return to football. He'd been serving an anti-doping ban. The FA have just announced the news with this statement. It's a lengthy statement, but let's just try and tease out the key details for you. So the FA can confirm that the anti-doping disciplinary proceedings against Mykhailo Mudri were resolved with the agreement of WADA, that's the World Anti-Doping Agency, yesterday. In the context of that agreement, Mr. Mudri has accepted his commission of anti-doping rule violations, they're known as ADRVs, and accepted a period of ineligibility. So the history of this, on the 22nd of October 2024, he was subject to an out-of-competition doping protocol which revealed the presence of a low concentration of meldonium. Meldonium is a prohibited substance. Then on the 23rd of May 2025, the FA then charged Mykhailo Mudri with ADRVs, anti-doping rule violations, in breach of regulations 3 and 4 of its 2024 anti-doping regulations. Then moving forward to 7th to 9th of January 2026, this year, a hearing took place before an independent regulatory commission, and the regulatory commission found that Mykhailo Mudrik had committed the charged ADRVs and imposed a 4-year period of ineligibility. That was from January this year. But the story doesn't end there because it was appealed. So Mykhailo Mudrik filed an appeal with the Court of Arbitration for Sport. It's the highest appeal court in the world. And since then, changes mean that if Mykhailo Mudrik's sample was collected today, the concentration of meldonium in the sample would not have been reported and no ADRVs would have resulted. And further to that and to other circumstances...
Never stopped fighting it. He filed an appeal with the Court of Arbitration for Sport, maintaining throughout that he never knowingly or intentionally took anything banned. And it turns out the science and the rules around him were shifting in his favour the entire time. The World Anti-Doping Agency has since updated its own technical guidelines around meldonium, and the FA has now confirmed something remarkable, that if Mudrik's sample were collected today, under the current rules, it wouldn't even have been reported as a violation in the first place. Combine that with the specifics of his case, described by the Court of Arbitration as showing only a low concentration of the substance, and you start to understand why this appeal ultimately succeeded. The resolution itself came through an agreement between the FA, Mudrik and the World Anti-Doping Agency, structured so that his suspension was treated as equivalent to time already served. He accepted that he had technically broken anti-doping rules, but with the change guidance and the specifics of his case taken into account, both sides agreed he'd already served his time. The outcome, in the FA's own words, is that Mudrik is no longer ineligible and may return to competition immediately. Hearing directly from the player himself really drives home just how difficult this stretch has been. Mudrik described the suspension as the most difficult period of his entire career, saying he'd always maintained he never knowingly or intentionally took any banned substance, and that competing fairly while representing his club and his country with integrity has always mattered deeply to him. He said he's grateful the process has finally reached a conclusion and that he can now genuinely look ahead to his future rather than being stuck fighting a case that had no clear endpoint. And it's worth remembering just how isolating this whole ordeal actually was for him. Reports throughout his ban described Mudrik training alone, denied access to Chelsea's own training ground during the suspension, and even working in a charity shop to stay occupied while his case dragged through the appeals process. That's a genuinely humbling picture for a player Chelsea signed for around €100 million back in January 2023 on an 8.5-year contract running through to 2031.
Big breaking news. Chelsea have announced the signing of 35-year-old striker Danny Welbeck from Brighton. The striker has signed a contract until 2028 and he will join up with Xabi Alonso's squad during their pre-season tour. They're heading to Hong Kong now. They play Juventus there on Wednesday. Welbeck, 35 years of age, scored 14 goals in 40 appearances last season for Brighton. People arguably said he could have gone to the World Cup, scored 3 goals in 2 games against Chelsea. Pivotal in Brighton, finishing above Chelsea in the table last season. Chelsea ending up just 10th, but they've signed Danny Welbeck to perhaps add some firepower to their front line. And he's had this to say: when you hear of the interest from Chelsea, it's something that fills you with such immense pride. Knowing the history of Chelsea, it's a club that wants to win trophies and is pushing to do that every single season. I'm really honoured to come to a club of this stature at what feels like a really exciting time. I know a few of the boys already, and I've had fantastic conversations with the manager and already feel that connection. I've got that fire in my belly and I'm ready to give it everything for this club to make everyone at Chelsea and the supporters proud. So Danny Welbeck turns 36 in November, but after a storied career beginning at Manchester United, his local childhood club, continue at Arsenal and then Brighton. In the middle of his 30s, he has completed that move to Chelsea, with Xabi Alonso very much intent on adding experience to this Chelsea lineup that's had this policy of very youthful players on long-term contracts up to now. But it's a 2-year contract for Danny Welbeck, completing his move to Chelsea from Brighton. More reaction to that as and when we get it. It's been a busy week for Chelsea. Their new manager, Xabi Alonso, spoke today about the news that winger Mykhailo Mudrik has been cleared to return to play after his doping ban was resolved. The 25-year-old hasn't played since November 2024 after he was suspended for 4 years for failing a drugs test. Changes, though, to World Anti-Doping Agency procedures in the interim mean that he failed test produced the same result now, so if it was the same result as it was then, charges would not have been brought.
Yeah, we are happy for him, especially for him, because probably we are not able to understand what he has been through in this time, and how does he feel at the moment with the things that he had to cope. And we want that he feels part of a team, because he's been training on his own for a long time, and that we have the support from everyone, from the club, from the teammates, from the staff, and for sure it will take time. So once he's with us, we will see how things develop.
Well, Alonso also responded to the club's £10 million fine and suspended 2-window transfer for breaches of FA rules between 2011 and 2018.
Any issue that is sorted is welcome, because somehow it can affect the team. That's my concern. And once we don't have restriction in that, then it's good that we have solved that.
Breaking news, and Brentford have confirmed the signing of midfielder Mamadou Sangare from Lens in a deal we understand to be a club record worth around £39 million. He has signed a 5-year deal plus an option until 2032. Now, Sangare is 24 and a Mali international. He joined Lens last summer and played 33 times.